Jenna, we need to talk about the seating arrangements. Mrs. Margaret Langston's voice oozed with a venom she barely bothered to hide as she sized me up in the sleek, chandelier-lit confines of a high-end Chicago bridal boutique. Given the caliber of guests attending, we think table 19, near the kitchen, would be best for you. Table 19? I echoed, my tone steady even as a tight knot twisted in my gut. But that's not with the family. Exactly, she replied, her lips curling as she exchanged a knowing glance with her husband, Richard. The head tables are reserved for immediate family and distinguished guests. We've got the governor's chief of staff, hospital board members, people of a certain standing. I'm Sophie's mother, I said simply, standing my ground. Traditionally, parents sit together at the head table. Richard cleared his throat, his polished demeanor cracking just enough to reveal discomfort. Jenna, we get it, but you have to see our side. Our son is marrying into a different world than he's used to. Some adjustments are necessary to keep the event's tone appropriate. Their words lingered like a slap as Sophie stepped out of the fitting room, her wedding gown shimmering under the boutique lights. Her smile faltered the instant she caught the tension in the air. My name is Jenna Carter, 48, a single mom who raised my incredible daughter Sophie alone after her deadbeat father vanished before she was born. All I want is to share her wedding day with the dignity I deserve, not to be shoved into a corner like some shameful secret. Standing in my way are the Langstons, Margaret and Richard, a pair of old money snobs whose outdated prejudices paint me as unworthy of their pristine family circle. Mom, what's going on? Sophie asked, her eyes flicking between us. Just sorting out the seating chart, darling, Margaret cut in before I could speak. Nothing to trouble you with on your big day. The seamstress, pinning Sophie's hem, shifted awkwardly as I forced a reassuring smile. We'll figure it out, sweetheart, I told her, refusing to let this spoil her joy 6 weeks before the wedding. Margaret's smile never reached her icy eyes. Of course we will. Now, Sophie, about the coordinator's idea to streamline the receiving line, maybe just you, Ethan, and us? It'd be more efficient. Another subtle dig, another quiet erasure. As we left, Margaret's manicured hand grazed my arm, her diamond bracelet glinting. Oh, and the rehearsal dinner's black tie, she said breezily. I assume you'll need time to find something suitable. The implication stung. My life, my job, my very existence didn't measure up to their world. Later, driving back to my modest suburban apartment, my phone buzzed. A text from Sophie, Mom, the Langstons cut Aunt Lisa and Cousin Emily from the invite list without telling me. What's happening? My grip tightened on the wheel. This wasn't just about seats or dress codes. They were chiseling away at our life, reshaping Sophie's wedding to erase me entirely. I've spent 26 years building a world for Sophie and me, brick by grueling brick. When her father bailed at 22, leaving me pregnant and broke, I had no degree, no safety net. Just grit and a knack for keeping things organized. That landed me a low-level gig at Horizon Media. While other young moms might have buckled under the strain of solo parenting and a relentless job, I leaned into it. Early mornings prepping for meetings, late nights perfecting details, and somehow still cheering at Sophie's school plays. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. By the time she hit high school, I'd climbed to executive assistant for Victor Grayson, Horizon's CEO and founder. It paid for Sophie's prep school, her debate team, and eventually her pre-med degree. When Sophie met Ethan Langston during her residency at Northwestern Memorial, I was over the moon. He was smart, kind, and crazy about her. His pedigree, son of Richard Langston, hospital board chair, and heir to the Langston shipping empire, didn't faze me. I figured love trumped lineage. Big mistake. Our first meeting at their swanky Lakeshore Drive penthouse should have tipped me off. Margaret's gaze slid past me after a curt hello, zeroing in on Sophie. And what does your mother do, dear? She asked, not me, as if I were invisible. Mom's the executive assistant to Horizon's CEO, Sophie beamed. Margaret's tight smile barely hid her disdain. A secretary. How dependable. I brushed it off then, chalking it up to nerves. Months into the engagement, though, the pattern was clear. Richard talking over me at dinners, Margaret forgetting me and planning emails. Their endless name-dropping of elite schools and legacies whenever I mentioned Sophie's childhood. They're just old school, Sophie said when I hinted at my unease. They'll warm up once they know you. I wasn't convinced, but for her sake, I kept quiet. Wedding planning only sharpened their knives. Every snide remark about my simple life Every jab at my limited grasp of high society norms fueled a growing suspicion. The Langstons didn't just misunderstand me, they despised my presence in their son's life and were hellbent on sidelining me at Sophie's wedding. Still, I smiled, compromised. Told myself it was just one day. I could endure anything for her. I didn't see how far they'd push. The rehearsal dinner at the Chicago Yacht Club was a glittering nightmare. I'd splurged on a black cocktail dress, still a pauper's rag next to the designer couture swirling around me. Richard's toast droned on about uniting two great families, conveniently skipping any nod to me or my tiny crew. Aunt Lisa, Cousin Emily, and Great-Aunt Clara, all uninvited to this elite affair of 60. I held my head high, even when I found myself parked with the photographer and planner instead of family. Sophie, caught in a whirlwind of greetings, managed a hushed apology. "Mom, I'm so sorry, this isn't what I wanted." "It's fine, honey," I lied, squeezing her hand. "Tomorrow's what counts." But tomorrow brought fresh wounds. At the Drake Hotel, I arrived early as directed, only to be shunted to a cramped anteroom while the Langstons hogged the bridal suite. "Jenna, there you are," Margaret chirped when I poked my head in, searching for Sophie. "The mother of the bride space is down the hall, the coordinator should have told you." "I wanted to help Sophie get ready," I said. "We've got it handled," she waved me off, gesturing to the stylist fussing over Sophie. "Too many cooks, you know. Maybe focus on yourself. The photographer wants Langston family shots at 3. We'll squeeze in your pictures with Sophie later, if there's time." Sophie's eyes met mine in the mirror, apologetic but silent. The coordinator piped up, "Actually, the timeline has the bride with her mom at 2:30, then Langston's at 3. Margaret's smile turned brittle. "A mix-up, we settled this yesterday. The Langston portraits come first, with so many key family members." Sophie started, but Mom, only for Margaret to swoop in. "Darling, you don't want drama on your wedding day, do you? I'm sure your mother gets the logistics." "It's fine," I said, swallowing the sting, and retreated. As I left, Margaret's murmur hit me like a gut punch. Such a pity Sophie lacked a proper mother figure, just a secretary raising her alone. No wonder she needed us to steer this event. The words burned. 26 years of late-night sacrifices, extra shifts for ballet lessons, college essays polished at dawn, wiped out because I was just a secretary. And that cramped anteroom. Staring at my diminished reflection, something snapped. I was done being invisible. The ceremony was a dream, Sophie radiant, me walking her down the aisle with pride, despite the Langstons' sidelong glares. But at the reception their game sharpened. Table 19 by the kitchen was my exile, me, Ethan's old music tutor, the florist's wife, and a few randoms. Margaret floated over mid-dinner, her charm a thin veneer. "Jenna, everything to your liking?" "The table's a surprise," I said evenly. "I'd hoped to be near Sophie." "We put you with folks who won't overwhelm you," she replied, smug. "Our crowd includes big names your background might not mesh." "My background got Sophie through med school," I shot back. Quiet but firm. "That feels pretty significant." Her eyes flickered, shock at my spine, maybe before she brushed it off. "Supporting kids is basic parenting. Though I'm sure it was tough on a secretary's pay. Good thing Ethan can give Sophie the life she deserves now." She flitted off before I could counter. A text from Victor Grayson buzzed in. "Vin, you look stunning, proud of you and Sophie. Office is fine with me this weekend. Call if you need me." It was a lifeline, a reminder I wasn't nothing outside this gilded cage. I mingled with my table mates, danced with Aunt Clara, thanked the staff, small rebellions against my banishment. Sophie found me later, horrified. "Mom, I just saw where they put you. I'd never have okayed this." "It's your day, sweetie," I soothed. "Don't stress." "It's not okay," she insisted, but Richard's bellow. "Sophie, the Hendersons are leaving. Come say goodbye." Yanked her away again. Overhearing Margaret nearby sealed my resolve. Yes, Sophie's roots are humble, but she's climbed so well, a little rough around the edges, with no real guidance. The mother's just a secretary, you know, we've had to polish her up. The women's titters stopped when they saw I'd heard. That was it. I was done bending. Why keep chasing their approval when I could show them who just a secretary really was? Fate handed me the stage. Michael Voss, CEO of Apex Healthcare, approached table 19 with a grin. "Jenna Carter? Been what, 3 years since that Horizon deal?" "4. I corrected, shaking his hand. How's Apex? Thriving thanks to you and Victor. Mind if I sit? I'd love to catch up. As we chatted, eyes turned. Margaret watched, calculating. Didn't know you knew the couple, I said. I'm on the hospital board with Richard, Michael replied. But I'm here for you, been chasing Victor for a telehealth meeting forever. I smiled. His assistant Mia's a fortress, but I could snag you a July breakfast slot. His brow shot up. You've got that pull? 15 years running Victor's life, nothing at Horizon escapes me. Then came Rachel Thornton, CFO of Nexus Tech, with her husband, Senator Paul Thornton. Jenna from Horizon? Your daughter's the bride. She's your spitting image. Soon my back table exile morphed into a power hub. Victor's wife, Elena, swept in, lamenting my hidden spot. The governor's chief of staff brainstormed with Senator Thornton behind my chair. Congressman Tom Reynolds arrived late, beelining for me. Jenna, need your take on this infrastructure bill press release. Margaret, sensing the shift, swooped in. Congressman Reynolds. I'm Margaret Langston, Ethan's mom. Didn't know you knew Sophie's mother. Rachel laughed. Jenna's why half of us get anything done with Horizon. She's a Chicago legend. Margaret's smile iced over. A legend? But she's a executive assistant, I finished. Yes. Senator Thornton chuckled. Titles don't tell the story. Jenna's brokered more deals than most tycoons. Her mask slipped, the dawning horror clear. The woman she'd buried was a linchpin among the elite she worshipped. Jenna, you should have said you were so connected, she cooed, pivoting hard. Would it have mattered? I asked coolly. She had no answer. The toasts began, but Sophie stole the show. After the father-daughter dance, me sidelined again. She took the mic. I was raised by a single mom who was my everything. Mom. Dance with me. The spotlight hit me as wind beneath my wings. Our song played, a surprise she'd planned alone. I'm sorry about today, she whispered. Catherine Thornton told me how they treated you. I didn't know. It's okay, I said, but she shook her head. No, it's not. I'm fixing it. Post-dance, she spoke again. My mom worked 2 jobs for my science camp, edited my med school apps at 2 a.m., taught me class isn't cash, it's character. Tears pricked my eyes as she laid bare my unseen battles. Victor Grayson's late arrival upped the stakes. Margaret pounced. Mr. Grayson, what an honor. But he brushed her off. I'm here for Jenna, my right hand, not the couple. Her fawning crumbled. When Margaret offered me a head table spot, pure damage control, I declined. I'm good with friends. Her eyes flashed fury. This wasn't over. My moment came with the mother's speech. Margaret's was syrupy fluff about unity. Mine cut deeper. 26 years ago, I was a scared, pregnant kid with nothing but will. Today, I'm Dr. Sophie Carter's mom. Prouder than words can say. I've been called just a secretary tonight. That title hides the contracts I've shaped, crises I've managed, events I've run bigger than this. Worth isn't wealth or status. It's integrity, effort, compassion. The applause roared. Victor shook my hand, cameras flashing. Margaret and Richard's facade shattered. No rebuttal could save it. Weeks later, their social stock tanked. Margaret lost her Art Institute gig. Richard missed the board chairmanship. At Sophie and Ethan's first dinner party, Margaret gifted me a designer scarf, fishing for praise. How thoughtful. I said dryly. It'll join the pile. Their deference was laughable, forced by their own misstep. The real win? Ethan and Sophie nixed the Langstons' ritzy house offer, choosing a place near me. Months later, a gala invite arrived. Mrs. Carter, head table as requested. I grinned, picturing Margaret's face when just a secretary took her rightful seat.